Hey y'all, welcome to the Team LocoFit Roundtable, hosted by me, Laurin Conlon, owner of Team LocoFit. Each week, I am joined by one of our coaches to dive headfirst into the nutrition, training, mindset, and coaching strategies we use with our clients. If you loved the show, please subscribe, leave us a review, tell a friend, you know the drill. And for more information about coaching, the programs we offer, and additional content, visit teamlocofit.com. All right, and we are back, and I'm joined once again with Sam Hall, our newest Team LocoFit coach. Hey, Sam.
Hello.
So if you guys did not listen to the first episode of this kind of two-part series, it was all about, lifestyle factors that are, holding you back or working against you. And we talked specifically about physical activity and exercise. And now this piece of the puzzle for people who are just starting out and are interested in, kind of what to do, like what is actually holding them back. We want to talk about the diet piece of it too, which of course is just as important, arguably maybe even more important. But, again, that kind of just depends on the individual person and their lifestyle. So let's kick this off with what are some of the, diet, trends or habits that you're following that might be working against you.
Yeah. I figured we could just go through this and kind of talk about like the things that are holding you back first, and then give you guys some kind of tips on how to combat those specific points. Because a lot of this is geared mostly towards like general population, like people who, and some of this will be applicable to people who are competitors or people who've been doing this for a long time, but a lot of people who, and you guys touched on this a lot in your health at every size thing, like we assume that people have this wealth of knowledge and education because we have been in the industry for a while, and that's just not the case. So there's a lot that can hold somebody back. And I do think that a lot of people who are educated still fall into a lot of these pitfalls. So the first thing is that just the average American diet is totally like skewed as far as the macro ratios that we would gear towards in like a healthy, like active diet. So a lot of high carb, a lot of high fat, low protein, just totally working against you. And I mean, this is due to a lot of things, like your go-to foods. Like I can like think of one, maybe two protein-rich foods from a gas station. Like, got anything?
Yeah, it really, I mean, it depends on the gas station. Obviously, there are some that, I know I'm kind of spoiled. Like Florida's certainly a healthier state,
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, obviously not in some ways, but in general, I could go to the gas station and there would be jerky, there would be protein bars, there would be Greek yogurt, there might be hard-boiled eggs, and then other places you go, not everywhere in Florida, obviously, like there's plenty of places that don't have shit like that, but as far as like the bigger cities, we have that. And then I've traveled to other places and you're just like, whoa, like there's nothing.
Jerky or jerky.
Yeah. Like, okay, jerky. Yeah. Like that's, we got that. And if you look at like a, there might be like a protein drink, maybe,
Yeah,
but it's filled with shit. I mean, I'm even surprised still to this day. I'm always shocked. Like I was at Target one day and I was, really behind, and I had just come from something I hadn't eaten in a while. Like I was just very unprepared, and I was at the store and I was going to go home, but I still was like, oh my gosh, I would really like to have something right now. So I was just looking like, let me just grab like a protein drink. They probably have like an RTD or something, right?
yeah.
No. Well, they had like all of the, I think it was like Bolt House or some shit, whatever. It was, one of those little pre-made protein smoothies. It's like super high, double protein. This bitch had 13 grams of protein and like 60 carbs. And I was like, yo, and listen,
Wow.
I am not dieting. I am not, super tracking my food. I don't need that. You know what I mean? Like I still don't need that. Right.
Yeah.
Especially in like a liquid form, like, yeah, cause I wouldn't be satiated. I still want to go home and eat something. So I'm just thinking like, I was looking through all of them. Most people would not even look at that, let alone,
Protein.
or I was, at a gas station, I was looking for iced tea. I love unsweet tea. I hate sweet tea. I think it's repulsive. But I love unsweet tea. You know how hard it is to find an unsweet tea at the at the gas station, or just like a black coffee, like that. If you find that, it's like a gold mine. Okay, normally it's filled. The coffee has 40 carbs. The tea, you're like, oh my, what?
What is this? Yeah.
Why is this such a challenge? You know what I mean? But if people are used to eating that and they're used to those tastes, and I'm not trying to be this person who's like, you can't have sweetened beverages. Like, no. But we're talking about, especially when somebody's first starting,
Yeah.
they don't have this education. with food. They don't understand. And you can't really regulate your hunger with stuff like that. You drink 60 carbs, you don't really feel it. You just don't. Like, it's like it didn't happen. So that's a huge issue. And so if you're on the go, if you are, eating out of a gas station, or, that's the reality. Like, sometimes people are busy and they're traveling, or at the airport, like some airports have awesome options. Other places I go and I'm like, guess I'll eat my toenails, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? This is awful. So like there's not even like good, bad food here. Like, this is just bad, like, it's just not even a redeemable option.
Yeah. There might be more protein in your toenails than what you're gonna get.
There actually might be. So, maybe I just won't cut them the next time I travel. And that's always fun. Yeah, everybody's like, we're tuning out right now. But so the one thing too that you said, which was like, so I just have to hit on this, which is like the high protein, high carb. The high carb, high fat. Everybody, again, this is rampant in, when people are first starting out, or just kind of, the way that people talk about stuff. Oh my gosh, don't eat that. It's so high in carbs. And like, the food will be like a donut. And I'm like, do you know how much fat is in a donut? Which, again, I don't care. But if you're really talking about hyper palatable foods, they're high in carbs and they're high in fats. And they're just satiating enough so you feel a little bit full, but you don't feel too full. Because if you felt too full, then you wouldn't keep eating them. You know what I mean? Like, that, the hyperpalatability part would be missing. So really, most foods that people are over consuming are not one macronutrient or another. It's really the combination of the carbs and fats. And almost every packaged food that is hyperpalatable is a 50-50 split of carbs to fat calories. So something might have, like, it's not going to be a 50-50 split as far as like the grams, but there's 9, oh my gosh,
20 calories from fat, 20 calories from carbs.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Math. Math at 5:45 is not happening. So yeah, if you look at these foods, you're like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Like, it literally just like stands right out at you. Like, this is literally, could be 10 fat, 25 carbs. Like, that's a basic, like, the ratio.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of easy, convenient foods.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my second point, is that most like hyperpalatable foods are high protein, or excuse me, not high protein, unfortunately, unless you're making it right. High carb, high fat. And so we overeat them, and it's just the food that we want to eat because it is good, because it tastes good, because we always want more. And that's just, again, culture and branding and all that stuff just working against you. And the only reason why this continues in people is because they're just not aware of it. They don't know what's in their food. They don't know what they're eating and how that's affecting them, because they don't know how to be aware of it, or they just haven't, like, a lot of times it takes somebody to get to that point where they're like, okay, I know that I'm doing something wrong. I need to fix it. And so that's the first thing you can do when you're in that position and that's what you're struggling with, is eating a diet that's just not working for you and has that inappropriate split, is to become aware of it. And so how do we do that? You can start tracking macros if that's something that you want to do. And that's something that a lot of our clients do, a lot of competitors do. And just, it's a great way to become aware of what you're eating and become a little more disciplined and have a more of a direction to your diet, instead of just like eating what you want. Which, I mean, you can eat what you want, but making sure that you do get enough protein in, and that you do keep your fats moderate, and you do keep your carbs within where you need them to be. But if that's not for you, you can also become aware by just tracking your habits. So like you said, I think it was in the last episode, maybe, like, everybody knows that you need 4 servings of protein a day at least. No, not everybody does know that. And so
we think they do, but they don't.
We would hope they would, but they don't. And like we've talked about before, outside of this, is that the recommended daily allowance is based on the like bare minimum that you need. And so people think that they're maybe getting enough when they're not. And so just creating those habits of, did I do X, Y, and Z? Check. Like, did I eat my veggies today? Check. Did I eat whole foods today? Check. And having that awareness of your habits, that can be a game changer in itself. And that's where coaching comes in, and being able to hold somebody accountable to those actions. And I don't know how many times I've heard from my clients that becoming aware of their diet was, and the word I always hear is enlightening. Like, very rarely do I hear that like tracking was so stressful, or tracking was like too much to bear. It was just like, whoa, I had no idea that this is what I was eating.
Mm-hmm.
And
even taking it one even more step back, And somebody who's just starting, like doesn't know where to start, doesn't know what to do, just write down what you're doing every day. You will be, and that obviously is a form of tracking, but basically just write it down. There's no judgment, doesn't matter what it looks like. Just literally starting with that is so enlightening and eye-opening. And as a coach, it's 100% necessary, because if somebody comes to us and says, hey, I really want to, change my life. I want to change my diet and lifestyle, and I want to do all this stuff, and I need to lose 30 pounds, this is off, and da-da-da. Okay. Well, what are you eating? Oh, I don't know. Okay. How many taxes are you going to pay this year?
Yeah.
Well, you would need to know a lot of information before you could say that, right? So it's the same kind of thing. And it doesn't need to be like, hey, here's this perfect spreadsheet. It just needs to be like, give me a rough idea of what you're doing, right? And we need to have a little bit of information. And then that really allows a coach, to look at that and go, oh, here's, you as the coach knows, okay, there's 10 things we need to fix here. You might tell the clients, okay, we're going to focus on these first few things, and we're going to kind of work down. But that's really insightful and really important, because otherwise you're just kind of shooting in the dark. Because if somebody, is saying like, oh, I don't know what's going wrong every day or every night, you're like, oh, well, I can easily see it now because I know what you were doing. You were skipping this and then you were it, right? Like it's so easy to identify once you write it down, but you have to be aware of it first and foremost.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I do with general population, people who come to me and have never tracked before. It's the first few weeks are just that education period where like no judgment on my end. I just need to see what's going on. Like I was general population before I got into fitness myself. Like I've done all of these things. I've eaten all of these foods in copious amounts. So like there's no judgment. I just need to see it so that we know what we can work on, and then we can start making those gradual changes, which we'll get into later. But
yeah, a lot of people often think that like, oh, coaching is just for people who are really advanced. And it's like, no, actually, like that's a huge part of what we do, especially on Team Local Fit, is we are trying to educate clients on those habits, on those basic things to actually start. Because what makes somebody successful is not saying, hey, I don't know what I'm eating, so just give me like a list of foods to eat and like that's it. A list of foods might be helpful to encourage them to eat certain foods, but we also need to learn why, right? If you just say, hey, eat these foods, because then guess what happens? Say I'm coaching you, Sam, and you don't have any background in this. I say, hey, try and stick with these foods, which isn't terrible advice. But then guess what happens when you go out to eat, or, you have a work lunch and they don't have that food there? What are you going to do? Are you not going to eat? Are you going to freak out and then eat something else and then later overeat again? And then where's it going to like spiral? Like, right? Like that's where it needs to be like, okay, hey, here's ideally what we should probably be trying to eat and incorporate. But also here's why, and here are some other just habits and things we need to set up. So that's what's so, so important, especially starting. And then I know you want to touch on portion sizes next, which portions of the wrong things. Oh my God. I always have to be ordering like double, triple meat. I'll order double meat some places and I'm like, this is for double meat? I don't believe this. Is this for a 4-year-old? Like, come on.
Yeah. Or I swear to God, this is like, anytime my mom and I go out to eat and we get salads, my salad comes with like this much lettuce and hers comes with like this much lettuce. And I like love salads, but like it's such a Fitspo thing to say. Is like, I love salads.
I just love salad.
I really do.
You're literally that girl laughing while she's like eating her salad.
Crying into my salad. I love salad. No, I really do. And I always get gypped, like, but they'll give me the most guacamole ever. Like, exactly. You get the bigger sizes of the fry. I mean, picture a plate of fries. Like at a restaurant, they come spilling over your plate. And like, it's just ridiculous. It's like restaurants are the biggest culprit of this. Like they give you more than you need of those hyperpalatable foods because they know you're going to eat them. Like you're going to eat them. I worked at restaurants, like that endless fry bowl in the back for the staff. Like, oh God.
Except if you go out to eat with Ryan, he's always like, there's not enough food here. I'm like, oh my God, you are literally the worst. Like you're the only person who complains about this.
The guy who eats 1,000 carbs a day, like can go.
He's awful to go out to eat with because he just eats so much. And it's like, it is such a nightmare with
I can't imagine. My husband's like 6'5", 215 pounds, like skinny tall dude. Like he eats a lot, but then when I listened about Ryan's side, I was like, Tom, you have to hear this.
Little different. Yeah.
Holy smokes. But yeah, like for most people that are not Ryan, like it's too much food. It's just too much.
It's too
And
much
on
of the
top,
wrong stuff, like you said.
exactly. Yeah, too
It's
much of the
not
wrong
too much.
stuff.
They didn't give you too much grilled shrimp, like they gave you. I wish.
Give me more lettuce. But
They just want lettuce.
but like also you get like bonuses for ordering more at most places. It's like 2 for 1, like super size for like 15 cents more, and you're like, oh wow, okay. Like it's just it all pushes you to eat more, to have more. And then you have things like the internet with like the extravagant things we see, people wanting as much as they can, and this is something that I learned as an adult, like, oh, I don't have to clean my plate. Like growing up, we're taught like clean your plate, like eat all your food. And it's like, no, like you can start listening to your body and you can stop when you're full. But when you don't have that, when you've just been conditioned to like just eat all your food, that can be a hard thing to break.
Oh, for sure.
And so,
Especially out to eat.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
you're like, I paid for this.
Yeah. Uh, There's children in Africa starving. I don't know how me eating all my food helps them, but it's just, it's an interesting mindset that we get into, like, and like, I think that's another thing where awareness goes in, where people just don't know portion sizes. And so starting by just measuring your food, like that's not to say that if you measure out like a cup of rice and that's not enough and you still feel hungry afterwards, you can't go back for, quarter cup, half cup more. But just being aware and starting to measure out that food is a big step. And that doesn't even have to go along with tracking. Like just, again, being aware and looking what is a portion size on this food. You'd be surprised that a portion size of macaroni and cheese is not the entire box. Like start portioning out those foods and you'll find that you just eat less overall because you are aware of what you're doing. And on top of that, just starting to tune into some of those physical cues and being present to your meals and like getting off of your phone. Like I'm guilty of that. Like the only time I watch YouTube videos is when I eat food, and like I need to break that habit. But when you do turn that off, and you'll find like it feels like it takes you longer to eat. You're able to like actually kind of sense when you start to get full, as opposed to just like mindlessly eating.
I feel like there's
Yeah.
a name to that, and I cannot remember it. I had a client who, had some food issues, and it was actually one of the things that was recommended was really sitting with your food and like not describing it, but like really taking it in, like a very sensory experience, so that you felt like you were actually like a part of it. And you weren't just like, oh fuck, I like looked up and I ate all of this. I cannot remember the name of it, but it was a very like specific type of way of doing things. And sure, I mean, obviously you have to have enough time to do that, right? Like I understand that everybody has like 30 minutes to be like, let me eat this salad and really think about my feelings, and we get it. But if you can do that sometimes, which is again trying to avoid just mindless behaviors while you're doing it, that can be really helpful. Actually, I have a friend who, we were together for a few days. She was staying with me, and she would always work when she was eating, and I was like, what are you doing? Like I try to not do that. And she's like, honestly, she's like, I eat too fast if I don't. She's like, it actually helps slow me down, and like I actually can enjoy my meal more. So for some people it could work, you know what I mean, if you're just like like guzzling your food down and want to like run out of the room. So obviously there is context there too, but in general, trying to be present with your meal will certainly help your satiety kick in and actually allow you, to, oh, okay, register, like, I don't need to eat any more of this, or, hey, this was a perfect amount. Now I know for next time to portion out this much food.
Yeah, and she had that awareness that she figured out, like,
oh yes,
this is what works for me, and like
being a very advanced person.
yeah, like when you have that awareness though, like that's important. And so being able to figure that out, like, okay, maybe like sitting with my food does cause me to like eat too much. Maybe I do need to do something. Or like I saw this stupid video. It was like it was like etiquette rules. I took like an etiquette rule class. This woman took like this etiquette rule class. One of the rules of being a lady is you're only supposed to take 4 bites of food at a time. And I was like, okay, that's like dumb for like being a lady, but also like it's a pretty good rule just to live by, to like not guzzle your food. Like take 4 bites, set your fork down, like take a second, breathe, as opposed to just me like licking my plate clean sometimes. Like, like just take your time a little bit.
Every time I think of an etiquette class, I think of Borat. So do you remember when they went to that like super proper like southern place? I've seen
It's
Borat,
been
like,
so long.
entirely too many times, and they basically go to this place, and it's kind of like an etiquette training, like manners type place, and I mean, he got super fucked over after the movie because he didn't really tell people that he was like making this a movie. Like, I don't remember all the details, but it was something to where like almost everybody sued him afterwards. And those people's business, like they sued him because they're like, our business was decimated afterwards because you made us look so bad. I mean, it felt really bad, but at the same time, you're like, okay, it was clearly like a satirical movie. Like, it really shouldn't have ruined your business. So maybe they were just saying that to like try to get money. I don't know. But every time I think of etiquette class now, I think of Borat like trying to do this and like this like Southern hospitality thing, and he was just being ridiculous. Yeah. If you guys haven't seen Borat in a while, go watch it.
Oh god, yeah, it's been like 15 years or whenever it came out, so that's when I saw it.
I've seen it. I quote most of the movie.
That's so niche.
It's me though. I mean, come on.
Like, exactly. You are the epitome of niche. Did I just bring Jill's Italian hands to?
Yeah, literally. You've been on the team for like 2 days, and you're like, "Hey."
I'm like, wait.
What do I do with these? Jill is literally. We had a meeting the other day, and I mean, I do it too, but Jill does it so much. She did it like 3 times in like. Without trying to make emphasis on it, she just was doing it. It was great. So the next point was the weekend, like the weekly roller coaster, which like, everybody's been on this ride before. And it's very, very common to be on track, whatever that looks like for you, or you mentally are calling it, on track Monday through Thursday, let's be honest, because by Friday night, most people are going out doing shit. And then of course that trails into Sunday. So, that's maybe 4.5 days of, you having good sensibility, or not even good sensibility. You might be under eating on those days, which then causes an even bigger compensatory response because let's be honest, that's just kind of what happens. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it perfectly. Like, people are on point Monday through Thursday, and I think you're right. I think a lot of women, especially, I don't know where it starts. I don't know if it starts like diet starts on Monday, and like, I'm going to eat well Monday through Thursday, and then the weekend comes and they've been so restrictive Monday through Thursday that it's like, I was good here, let's have some fun, and it's drinks and food, and a lot of people are social on the weekends. I don't know what that's like, but a lot of people are social on the weekends and they go out for.
Yeah, we do, Sam. It's what people do.
Good job. I'll stay home. But they go out for like multiple meals a day, and things as football season, tailgating, like it can become like this big event every weekend. And then Sunday rolls around and I feel guilty for everything that I ate over the weekend. So I feel the need to restrict again on Monday. And it does become this roller coaster. And sometimes it's not even restricting. It's just like, okay, I'm going to get back to like my baseline, which some people's baseline isn't even that great. It's still, eating out 3 times a day but it's just not as extreme as it is on the weekends. But no matter what, you have this intake on Monday through Thursday. You have this intake Friday through Sunday. That's going to bring your average intake up here. So you're still, podcast listeners, you're just going to have to imagine what that is. But on the video, I'm using my hands. But it's going to pretty much cancel itself out, if not even bring your intake higher than what your maintenance would be. And that's just, again, you're right. Like, that's something we've all done. And I think the best approach to this is to just have a more moderate approach overall. Like, rather than feeling the need to be restrictive all week long and then let loose on the weekends.
Drink every night. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, do it. Go crazy all night, every night, whatever. No, like, just allow yourself those little treats like throughout your week, and to like eat foods that you like throughout your week. And then on the weekends, like, maybe you don't go out to eat brunch, dinner, drinks afterwards. Like, choose one meal to go out per weekend, or go out multiple nights per weekend, but choose one that you're maybe going to have an indulgent meal on or have extra drinks. And then on your other meals, like, stick with like a lean protein and veggies or a salad or something like that. Like, just making it more moderate can be enough, especially when we're talking about general population and lifestyle. Competing is obviously going to be different, but that can make a huge difference. And I've seen that. I just had a client recently, her first untracked meal with me. She went out for Mexican and she ate like 3 bowls of chips, and she was like, oh my God, I was so miserable afterwards, like never doing that again. And then like 2 months later, she was like, I went out for Mexican as my untracked meal, didn't even finish the bowl of chips. She was like, I just didn't need it. And she's like, I used to have to, have, an appetizer, a dinner, dessert, drinks. Like it had to be this big event anytime I had an untracked meal.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm eating enough throughout my week, I get to have things that I like throughout the week, and I don't feel the need to just like essentially binge. And that's, again, just that being moderate can help break that cycle.
And that's so hard. I mean, everybody falls into that mindset, no matter how advanced you are, because, oh, you get one meal or you get a few meals and you feel like you have to go all out. And sometimes that's what you want, like sometimes you want a more calorie dense meal. But then other times it's like, no, I'm kind of cool with this, and it's all about the context of, again, not just that day, not just that meal, it's the whole week. And we did talk about this on the alcohol podcast that we did. One of the biggest issues, like I clearly have no issue with people drinking, and I personally do that myself on a semi-frequent basis. I'm not getting like trashed, everybody, but like, having, I'm like, sometimes, but multiple drink, like I enjoy alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference of having a few drinks versus I had one too many drinks and then I went out and grabbed fast food and then I didn't exercise and then I jacked up my sleeping patterns and I didn't have any water. Like, that's like kind of where it snowballs. So it's the same thing with this food pattern. Like it's not like, hey, you went out a few times this week. Okay, realistically, if you're having multiple meals a day and you have a few of them out, it's really not that big of a deal. So you just have to really keep that in context. And that really, again, kind of goes into the last point, which is, the all or nothing mentality. And that is pervasive through everything in most people's lives. Like, let's be honest, that is really one of the biggest downfalls, I would say, of most people in general, is that they're either completely on or they're completely off. And this is represented, I think, the most, or likely the most, in nutrition.
I agree. And I would love to know like the psychology behind this. Like why are we these kind of creatures where it's like we got to be like on or off or good or bad? It's so like
it's easier.
Yeah, I think
it's
you're right.
Easier. You compartmentalize it to good or bad. The gray area, that middle ground, is a lot more mentally challenging, because I can either say I'm having whatever I want with no restrictions, or I say I'm having nothing. That is actually easier than saying I'm going to have what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Our brains and bodies are lazy. Like we always have to work over that.
Yeah, and put that label on things. We always want to be able to compartmentalize and label things. I think that's a great point. But that is something that, especially in the fitness world, is so pervasive. It's just that all or nothing mentality where, and especially when we're talking about people who are just getting into things and they want to start, it's, I have to have this perfect plan. I have to have all my food figured out. I have to meal prep everything. I have to have all my workouts figured out. And then this is Sunday, they have everything ready. And then Monday comes around, Monday by noon, something has inevitably thrown them off their plan. And it's, whatever, like I can't do it. Because you tried to make a 180 shift in your behaviors and the way you lived your life. And as a human, like that's just not possible for most people. Of course, there's gonna be that one person who's just like so disciplined they can do whatever, but like you're probably also not going to be in that situation in the first place. And so it's just not maintainable to do that overnight switch. And on top of that, it's that I have to do it all or it's not worth it. I have to have everything figured out or it's not worth it, when really, as we talked about with the physical activity podcast, it's the small changes that are going to add up. And we have to remember that they are additive. We're not just changing your protein intake one day and then we focus on like moderating your carbs and we forget about protein. You've built the habit of eating protein now. And so now we can add a habit and we can add a habit. And over time, you're going to get to that like almost all in place that you want it to be, but it just didn't happen overnight. And then we can see that, and at least in my experience, I find that we can, when we see that maybe not all the pieces are in place as we build, you start to see that like, oh, it's okay if every once in a while, like things aren't 100% on point, because life happens. Like things are not going to be 100% on point. We start to see that that's okay. And so when you get to that healthier place, you're a little bit more able to handle when things go wrong or when you mess up, because you know that like, oh, it's okay, I've been here before, I can get back to where I was, as opposed to like getting the entire case of the buckets and being like, well, messed up, guess I can't, guess I'm done, guess I'm gonna just go back to what I was doing before. And yeah, it just all adds up.
And that's really the ultimate test of true flexibility. And that is where building up these habits is so important. And I can't tell you how happy it makes me when a client who had something thrown at them, whether it was, family or friends or work or moving or sickness or whatever it might be, thrown at them completely off their game. They didn't crumble. They didn't let that spiral out of control. Sure, things were a little bit harder for a few days, but they recognized it. They didn't act on those emotions, and then they moved forward. And that really is the most important piece to coaching, in my opinion, because that allows people to actually make long-term progress. Because if every time something comes up, you don't have the resiliency to fight against it, you are never going to make any progress. And really what we're building up with clients is their resiliency to stressors and learning how to manage those things in the context of, diet, training, lifestyle, all those kind of healthy habits. And that really is where the hard work, it's not sexy work, and it's hard to quantify kind of work, because a lot of times it doesn't feel like we're actively working towards something until bam, something like some catastrophic thing happens. And then they send an update and you're like, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, this is what it's all about. Like you didn't even like falter when this thing came up, where 2 months ago, if this would have happened, it would have been a 3-day food bender, and we don't know where your mindset would have been.
Yeah. And I think it's like the overall overarching theme of this whole thing can really be just like awareness. Like it's hard to know that you have that all or nothing mentality until someone points it out to you. It's like, how come when this thing was thrown at you, you felt like, forget it all then? Like, what is that mindset that's causing that? Because my favorite analogy to this is like, if you drop your phone, you got a crack in it. Are you going to be like, oh shit, and then just like take a rock to it and like break your entire phone? Like, no, you're going to baby your phone. You're going to make sure that you don't do any more damage to your phone. So if you
maybe if I'm really angry, but
maybe if you have like an anger problem,
God damn it.
you really want a new phone. I did throw my phone into a keg in college once because I was like, hey, it's a piece of crap. Like, I'll just get a new one. So,
I'll just get a new one tomorrow.
Maybe you'll do that, but like, let's be real. Like, you're probably
let's not to do that.
Let's not do that. Let's take care of it so that you don't have to spend $600 on a new phone. And so why do we do that with our diets, where it's like, oh, I had a cupcake, I might as well eat the rest of the pack? It's like you cracked your phone if you weren't planning on having that day, or like it didn't fit into your macros or something like that, like that, and you're not just eating it because you want to enjoy it. Like, maybe you put a crack in your phone by having that cupcake. Don't shatter your phone by then eating 12, because that's going to cause a bigger impact. So being aware of those situations where maybe you're going all in or completely all out, it really does help you to, over time, recognize like, oh, I don't need to do that. Like, I don't need to just jump off the wagon, like, because I messed up once. And same thing with the weekend roller coaster, being aware of those patterns and portion sizes, the macros that you're eating. Like, awareness is everything. And that's hard to do on your own without guidance. It can be really overwhelming if you don't have the education and background. And as like a normal person, like, why would you? Like, I mean, especially with the system that we have right now, like, people, you're taught that you need 70 grams of protein a day, which is sorely lower than what everybody.
It's 50.
Oh, is it 50?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is terrifying. So it like makes my body and heart hurt when I hear that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, 50 grams, cool. Like we said before, like that's to avoid like disease states.
Yeah.
That's not like to be functioning, and that is certainly not if you are trying to be active and train with weights and move your body and have a productive metabolism and have a better body comp, right? Like, you have to take some ownership with the protein there. It doesn't mean you need to have 500 grams of protein. Like, we're not saying that, but 50 is unacceptable.
So low. And that's what we're taught. I mean, that's what the numbers that we're given is like, this is what
if you look on a food label, like that's what it'll, if you're basing it off of that, like that's what you're going to see. And it's just like, be worse.
And let's be real, like, you're not getting those actual numbers from a classroom. Like they're just giving you a freaking food pyramid or whatever they do now.
Sick.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Top-notch education. And like, really, when is anybody listening to that? Like, it's like smushed at the end of a class and you're just kind of like, here's some nutrition shit. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
So anything else to add to this?
No, I think just be aware, get help where you need it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just like, do those little things. They're going to add up.
No, they certainly will. So if you guys didn't listen to the first part, definitely go check that out. We talk about physical activity and training in the context of just kind of initial lifestyle factors that might be working against you. If you liked this podcast or you like the podcast in general, please subscribe, leave a review, 10 stars, do the whole thing. You guys know. And then lastly, if you are interested, if this really spoke to you, these past 2 podcasts, and you were like, wow, like this is me, I need to get started. This was, what I needed to hear. You can apply for coaching at teamlocofit.com. And of course, if you would like Sam to be your coach, you can certainly add that in there. And we look forward to speaking with you guys next podcast.